morning friends, and welcome back to my channel. Or if this is your first time here, then hi, my name is Carrington. Big huge special welcome to you. I hope that you will consider hitting that subscribe button, clicking the little bell so you'll be notified of all my future uploads, as well if this is your 10th time, 100th time, 50th time, second time here and you still have not yet hit that subscribe button. I absolutely invite you to do so, and let's go ahead and get into this very exciting video. Today's video is kind of like a two-in-one. I'm going to be doing a review while also telling you guys some murders that happened on Halloween. That is right, I've got some exciting murders to talk about that did indeed happen on Halloween, but I'm also going to be reviewing the Kylie Cosmetics Nightmare on Elm Street collab. I got the little bundle. I got the palette, the liquid lips, and then this, what is this? This lip and cheek jelly stain. I think the packaging on these are so cute. I'm so excited to be able to use this. Like, this definitely has a nice Halloween theme to it. So if you guys are excited to see what I think of this Kylie Cosmetics collection, what look I come up with, while also hearing about some murders that happened on Halloween, then you are definitely going to want to keep watching. The case of Timothy O'Brien. It all started in 1974, and Ronald O'Brien never had anything but a parking ticket. He was described as a big guy who talked so soft it was almost feminine, and he had a real hangdog look. However, that was going to change on the night of Halloween 1974. After dinner with friends, Ronald and neighbor Jim Bates headed out to take the kids trick-or-treating. It was raining that night, and at one of the homes they visited, no one answered the door. While the children ran ahead to the next house, Ronald stayed behind. He eventually caught up to them and brought with him several giant pixie sticks, and he gave one to each of the children. They continued trick-or-treating for the next few hours. When they finally got home, Timothy asked to eat some candy before going to bed, and he selected the pixie stick. He had trouble pouring the powder in his mouth, so Ronald rolled the straw between his hands to help loosen the powder. Timothy then ate the pixie sticks, but complained that it was bitter, so his dad gave him some Kool-Aid to wash the taste out. Almost immediately, Timothy began vomiting, and a few minutes later was convulsing. His father called an ambulance. However, Timothy was dead on arrival. Detectives on the case quickly recovered 4 other pixie sticks, one of which was in the hand of a child about to eat it, but they had fallen asleep. Lab tests showed that each candy had the top 2 inches covered in a fatal dose of cyanide. Police then tried to pin down which house Ronald had gotten the candy, but he kept changing his story, stating that he had no idea what streets he had went down, or I don't know, we went to so many homes. But in fact, according to Jim, they had only visited a handful of houses and only went down 2 streets. Finally, Ronald directed them to a house that was owned by Courtney Melvin. However, he had a Loctite alibi, as he did not get home until 11 p.m. because he was at work where he was a supervisor at Hobby Airport, and more than 200 people were able to vouch for him. However, detectives were beginning to find some information about Ronald Strange, such as he had recently sold his home to cover mounting debts, and even still he owed money to numerous creditors. He had also taken out a $20,000 life insurance policy on each of his children a month earlier, in addition to the policies he had taken out in January. Just mere hours after his son was pronounced dead, he then called the insurance companies to collect on the policies. The summer before, he called a friend who worked for a chemical company and had inquired about cyanide and how much a lethal dose is. Just before Halloween night 1974, he went to a Houston chemical outlet to buy some poison, but left when he found out the smallest was only 5 pounds, stating he did not need that much. Although police could never verify where he did purchase the poison, and he maintained his innocence during the trial, it took the jury less than an hour to convict him. Ronald then turned to prosecutor Mike Hinton and offered him a Tootsie Roll. Ronald was then sentenced to the death penalty, and in 1979, during an appeal, the judge denied it, stating not only did he kill his son for money, but he was willing to kill 4 other children to do it. Ronald's lawyer tried to save his life up until his death, but all appeals failed. His final meal was well-done steak and Boston cream pie. He was then given a lethal cocktail of new drugs considered to be more humane than the gas chamber or electrocution. He was declared dead at 12:48 a.m., and when the news reached the group of observers, they cheered and yelled, "Trick or treat." Although this is a terrifying story, however, this would prove to be a singular crime, the only deliberate Halloween poisoning ever documented. The case of William Lisk and his family. If you cannot trust anyone else, you should be able to trust your family, right? Many are able to, but sometimes not every family is that lucky, and that just happens to be the case with this next murder. On October 31st, 2010, Devin Griffin returned home after church at 1:30 p.m. He noticed that the house was even more quiet than usual, especially given that his family was awake by now, and his mother Susan was always up and doing something. So Devin began to look around the house. He entered the master bedroom where his mother and stepfather appeared to be asleep in bed with a comforter over their heads. Devin then begins to talk to them, hoping this would wake them, and when that didn't work, he tapped on his mother's legs that was sticking out of the covers. But he was still unable to get a response. He then pulled the comforter down, and that is when he saw the bloody mess. He ran out of the house as fast as he could, tears running down his face, calling his aunt for help, who shortly arrives and calls 911. According to the coroner, William Lisk was shot 5 times in the face and head. Susan was sexually assaulted and then shot 3 times. Devin's brother Derek was found upstairs in his room and had died of blunt force trauma to the head and likely died within minutes. B.J. Lisk, or William Lisk Jr., was immediately a suspect. He was charged with 1 count of murder, so police were able to hold him until the case was presented to the jury. This was not his first run-in with the law, and in fact, he had a pretty extensive criminal background history. At 16, his father had to call 911 because he threatened to harm himself. When he was 18, BJ got into a fight with Susan and struck her in the chest and was charged with felony assault. 2 months later, he was charged with robbery for stealing Susan's car keys and hitting her in the head with a mug. He was found incompetent to stand trial and was sent to a group home. While there, he had 3 more encounters with police when visiting his father and stepmom, one including attacking Susan in the shower. Michelle Gradell said she heard the shots fired at 6:30 a.m. on October 31st, and BJ then took the family's Ford F-150 and drove it to the hunting cabin his father owned. He was arrested shortly after. He then pleaded to 3 counts of aggravated murder and therefore was sentenced to life with no possibility of parole. However, that sentence would be short-lived, as he was found dead in his jail cell on March 31st from a self-inflicted injury. The murder of Sister Tadia Benz. On October 31st, 1981, a nun, that of Sister Tadia Benz, was brutally assaulted and murdered in her St. Francis convent in Texas. At the time, Johnny Garrett lived across the street. Nun Tadia's body was found by another nun, and she was naked with blood on her face. The community room had a window that was broken, which immediately prompted them to call the police. The police then located a knife under the bed, and an additional one was found in the driveway. The autopsy revealed stab wounds and contusions to the head and neck. The cause of death, however, was that of strangulation. A witness claimed to have seen Johnny running from the convent to his home, and the kitchen knife in the driveway matched the design, make, and degree of the knife used in the murder. Johnny was arrested on November 9th. He maintained his innocence, but was found guilty and sentenced to death. He was set to be executed January 6, 1992, but was given a reprieve by Governor Ann Richards at the request of Pope John Paul II. However, The Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles voted 17-0 to uphold the death penalty. On February 11, 1992, he had his last meal of ice cream and then was executed by lethal injection. Even after his execution, speculation continued as to his potential innocence and the humanity of his execution. You see, Garrett was raped, beaten, and forced to perform acts for porn films by his parents. He was introduced to drugs and alcohol by his parents at the age of 10, including exposing him to brain-damaging substances like paint thinner. He is said to have significant brain damage that would have made him incompetent to stand trial. In addition to that, DNA evidence found in 2004 linked criminal Perez Ruda to the murder, and he had pleaded guilty to a crime that took place a few months prior that occurred in a similar manner of a woman named Narn Bryson. Attorney Jeff Blackburn, who represented Garrett during his appeals, also believes that he was wrongfully executed. The case of Maria Adams. On the night of Halloween, Maria Adams' significant other, Liddell Peebles, became so enraged over one of his missing bags of candy that he plunged a knife into his significant other multiple times on Halloween. During the altercation, Maria was able to throw a glass plate on him, causing him to need stitches. However, Maria would die in the hospital from her wounds. Peebles was charged in her murder and sentenced to life with no possibility of parole. The murder of Lisa French. Most of us remember a time when we went trick-or-treating around town with our friends, going door to door alone. Of course, our parents warned of a stranger danger, but what about people we knew? That is possibly what Lisa French was thinking on the night of her murder. You see, Lisa knew her murderer and knew them well. French would spend time with Turner and his infant and would have regular conversations with Turner. Turner used to share one half of a duplex with the French family. On the night of October 31st, 1973, French left her home at 4:45 p.m. French was supposed to go around town with her friend Ann Parker, but her friend had been grounded and was unable to go with her. So French went by herself, and she made stops at classmates' homes and a teacher before she made her way to Turner's. Turner answered the door, and they began to talk about candy, and at some point, Turner lured her into his home and then to his bedroom, where he would sexually assault and murder French. He then tried to revive the 9-year-old until his then-girlfriend Arlene Penn got home at 7 p.m. Turner stated that he was sick and made several trips to the bedroom to lie down, where the bathroom adjacent to the bedroom held French's body. Penn then left around 8 p.m. to visit her mother, and that is when Turner stuffed French's body and clothes in separate bags and discarded of her corpse in another town in McCabe Road in a farm field. He wore socks on his hands to try to hide fingerprints, wiped down her shoes and zipper of her jacket. Her mother grew worried when she did not come home by her 7 p.m. curfew, and by 10 p.m., a search party was conducted to try and find her. On November 3rd, Gerald Braun was returning home in his tractor around 11:30 a.m. when he discovered the bags. It was determined she died from asphyxiation. Turner was made a suspect early in the investigation, but it took 9 months until he would confess on August 8, 1974. Police then collected body hair and bedspread fibers from Turner and made a positive match to the fibers found on French. Turner stated in his confession that when he saw French in his doorway, he was highly sexually motivated, to which he then lured into his bedroom, where he then assaulted her. He noticed that she had stopped breathing, and when he put his head over her chest, her heart was still beating, and he tried to revive her. That is, until his wife got home. He was convicted on February 4, 1975, on charges of second-degree murder, enticing a child for immoral purposes, and acts of sexual perversion, and was sentenced to 38.5 years. He was then paroled October 13, 1992, for good behavior, after only serving 17 years and 3 months. Turner was then returned to prison in 2003 after an abundance of inappropriate children's pictures were found in his possession, and he has since been released in 2018. He is free to this day. John D. White, the murdering priest. John D. White has had quite a few run-ins with the law, including not the first time he has murdered someone or attempted. In 1980, John was 22 and living in Battle Creek when he had his 17-year-old neighbor over, Teresa Etherton, so she could look at his giant racetrack in his basement. While down there, he came up behind her and stabbed her in the back, all while smiling. He continued to smile and stab her repeatedly, 15 more times. He then wiped her mouth, kissed her, held her hand, and said, "I'm really sorry you had to go like this, but you're just a female." He then dumped her body in the woods. She did survive, and he only went to prison for 2 years. You see, he filed an appeal saying his attorney made a mistake by not claiming insanity, and instead of a new trial, he got 2 years probation and had to get mental health treatment. In July 1994, 6 years after his probation was up, 26-year-old Vicky Wall disappeared. John and Vicky were having an affair, even though he was married with 2 kids and one on the way. Surveillance showed Wall getting into his black pickup at 3 a.m., and that was the last time she was seen alive. Police were on to him, and then a few days later he tried to kill himself with pills and booze, stating that he was afraid he had hurt her during one of his blackouts. His wife at the time collaborated that he had multiple personalities and would frequently do something and not remember it. 6 weeks later, Thomas Meskel was walking when he saw a pair of white women's tennis shoes and was hit by an odor. Then he saw the skull. The body was naked except for a shirt and bra around the neck, but it was so decomposed, a cause of death that could not be determined. John was then charged with open murder. At this time, DNA detection was in infancy and not enough of a sample was collected, so he pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter, and he was sentenced to 15 years in prison. While in prison, he told a psychologist about his fantasies to kill the prosecutor on the case and his attorney and to have sex with them. Both women were warned. 13 years later, he was a free man. That's when he moved to Mount Pleasant and became the pastor. The church members were aware of his past, but had thought he had changed. John was engaged to Rebecca Gay's mother and often watched her son while she worked. On October 31st, 2012, he went over to Gay's trailer while her 3-year-old son was in the bedroom asleep. He had drank several beers before going over there, and once there hit her over the head with a mallet and then strangled her with a zip tie. He then undressed the body, but could not remember if he did anything to the body. He then took the body and dumped it in the woods before coming back, dressing her son in his costume and taking him to his dad's. Her mother quickly alerted the police when she wasn't home. John then went to his church and asked them to pray for her. The police quickly turned their attention to him as a suspect. He then told the police that 2 weeks before he had watched necrophilia and had thought about killing her so he could do that for 2 weeks. He told police that he could not get an erection despite trying. He then loaded the body, bloody towel. Alright guys, and here is the completed look. Let me know what you think down below. I had a lot of fun with this collection. I do have some thoughts, so let's just go ahead and let's kind of go over my final thoughts on this collection. Also, one thing that I forgot I had when I mentioned I had bought the bundle is I also had gotten the lashes, and I will talk to you about that when we get there. So first, let's start off with this palette. I think that it worked nicely. They were pigmented, blendable. The only qualm I have is I feel like these 2 shades that I kind of went in with first really blended out into almost nothing. I really had to sit there and like pack it on and then blend it out for there to be any sort of pigmentation. And now that I have the red, I had brought, that pink and brown up to my brow bone and not my brow bone, just like up to my brow. And I feel like nothing. Like it didn't do much of anything. I think that the reds are really nice. I think that this color story makes sense for what the theme of this collection is, which is Freddy Krueger, right? You've got the reds for the shirts, you've got the little green, you've got like the brown tones, and then you've got some really nice shimmers. I felt like the shimmers were really nice. I created this somewhat of like a halo eye effect. I really had no issues with the shimmers or anything else like that. The only qualm was that, you know, some of the mattes kind of appear a little bit lighter on the face than they do in the pan. And they do kind of take some packing. There's some fallout in the pan. It's got like a little mirror in here, so that's nice as well. Again, the front of the palette is really cute. I like how on the inside it's like blood splatter, and it's the same for both sides, just blood spatter everywhere. I think that's really, really super cute. So I really think that the palette was something that I was really glad that I did pick up. I would say if it's still available, definitely pick up the palette. That was super good. Okay, now let's move on to the lashes. These are awful. Do not buy these. So as you can tell over here, I have tried to take off these lashes and they just break. They just break off in chunks. So I was thinking, okay, these might be ones where, you know, you like can put some on like the outer corner, or you can like put them in how you want. No, there's like no band to this. Like, where is the band? That is my question. Because it feels like just these little hair pieces are what stuck to the red part, and there's no band to put glue on and then glue it on your eyes. It was a disaster. These are not good. These are really terrible lashes. I think I'm going to keep these just to, like, you know, have something cute, you know, in my collection. But like, do not buy these. Do not waste your money. Honestly, I'm pretty sure like the dollar store lashes are better than these, and those are only $1, and these were like what, like $10, $15, $18. Do not waste your money. This was crap. Next up was this cheek and lip stain. Okay, it was okay, but I had to layer it on to get anything to show up. And then even then, after I had powdered my face, it basically just like went away, and then I went in with powder blush. I feel like if you want something super, super sheer and gives like a very like light flush, I think that like this will be great for you, especially like if you are one of those like no makeups and you just, you know, you don't really set your face. You just put on like, you know, like a nice glowy primer, a nice foundation with SPF, concealer, some blush, maybe some cream contour, something on the lips. Like you can even put this on the lips. And then like something like, you know, some bronzer in your crease and some mascara, and you're out the door. I think that would be great for this. Okay, what are these called? These are called Lip Shine Lacquer. Okay, I'm wondering if this is a new formula. I personally have never ever heard of these. So first you have the shade, this light pink one called Only a Dream. I really like the component. I'm not gonna lie, the component's really cute. This is like a very like light color. I could hardly notice it really on my lips. It was just that, you know, that sheer. Or no, you're not sure, like light enough. And I'm like, you know, I'm pretty fair. So the fact that this, you know, barely showed up, I'm sure you could like layer this on top of other things. This, you know, like a liquid lip or a lipstick or something like that, or a nice lip liner. I think that would look fine. The next shade is called Elm Street. It's just like really beautiful. It's definitely like a very like in your face cherry kind of a red. It's beautiful. And then the last one is the one that I chose, and this is Never Sleep Again. I think my sticker was coming off. Okay. Anyways, Never Sleep Again. That's what I have on my lips right now. It does give a very nice like lip shine. However, it's kind of sticky. Like I feel like the most like right in the corner of my lips. That's where I feel it being the sticky the most. And when I do this, like it's not like stringy sticky, but it's definitely a very like sticky formula. And what I know about makeup and cosmetics, right? I'm not a makeup artist. I'm not a makeup company, but the more sticky these things are, the longer they last. So I have a feeling that this is going to have nice staying power. I don't think it's going to have like the most staying power, but I think it is going to have a really nice, good staying power. So yeah, I think these are really nice. Alright, and that is it for today's video. Let me know what you think down below. Did you like this style video? This is the first time with me doing a voiceover as I do my makeup, talking about some true crimes. Do you guys want me to do more of these? But that is it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in my next one.